Hello, church. I'm very glad to be here with you again in this online service, and thank you for joining us again. Today is good news. Today we can receive good news to see a new day. A new day is a new blessing from God to us. And I just wanted to let you know, as every Sunday, the prayer requests that we had this week and the prayers that we've been praying. We pray for Pastor Martha Pastor Martha Valencia and Pastor Tayengo and their families. We pray for Mike's health. We pray for Felicia's health. We pray for Sylvia's birthday, is his sister. We pray for Rachel's Moreno health. We pray for a couple known by Roland that are having a baby girl soon. We pray for the health of granddaughters of all. We pray for pregnancy of friend of Rachel. We pray for all school district teachers and students that are back in person or in this hybrid system. We pray also for the parents that are with their kids and are doing virtual school. We pray also for Miriam's health and for Pat Flores for health and recovery. These were the prayer requests that we've been praying in our prayer group this last Wednesday, and as every Sunday, I invite you to join us in this prayer group. It's also a Bible study about the sermon, and it's been going really well. These were the announcement and the prayer that we've been praying during this week, and now I invite you to worship together, singing this hymn number 64 in the United Methodist hymnal called Holy, Holy, Holy. I remember when I was a child, my family and I attended to this church, and I remember my Sunday school teacher was always encouraging us to read the Bible. He wanted us to learn how to read the Bible and to make a habit of reading the Bible. And he will ask us every week how many chapters did we read during the week. And in order to encourage us more, someday he made kind of a contest between the students of the classroom, and he said, next week I'm gonna ask you again how many chapters, But the one who read the more chapters is gonna win a prize. Guess what? I wanted to win. I wanted that prize. And I remember that next day, Monday morning, I opened my Bible and I went to the book of Psalms because I knew from my dad that Psalms are very short. For instance, Psalm 117 has only 2 verses. Only 2 verses. Later on, I learned that the Psalms are very different from other books in the Bible. They are not stories or narrations like the story of the King David, for instance, or they are not letters like the letters of Paul. Rather, they are songs, hymns, prayers written in a poetic way, and this is why the chapters are very short, except for chapter 119, which has 176 verses. Obviously, I didn't read that chapter for my contest. One of the things that I love about the Psalms is that as we read them, we can find people like you and me. People who try to understand God in the midst of different situations they lived. We find prayers from people who were tempted like us. People who asked for comfort when they felt sad, when they felt despair, frustration, anxiety, fear, and in some cases they felt that God was far from them. But even when they could have felt that way, God was always close. So these prayers of these people are the ones that are written in the book of the Psalms. And this is amazing because not only show the condition of these people, but reveal attributes, characteristics, the character of God, and answers of God to their prayers. And these attributes and answers were revealed by God Himself. So these people were encouraged, were inspired by remembering the greatness, the power, the immensity, the majesty of God. And of course, the result was always to worship God. In every psalm, you will find that the psalmist always ends up worshiping God. So today we're going to read Psalm 29, and we're going to read the whole psalm. It's only 11 verses. It says, "Ascribe to the Lord, you heavenly beings. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due His name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of His holiness. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord thunders over the mighty waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord breaks in pieces the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon leap like a calf, Syrian like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord strikes with flashes of lightning. The voice of the Lord shakes the desert. The Lord shakes the desert of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord twists the oaks and strips the forests bare. And in His temple all cry, glory. The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord is enthroned as king forever. The Lord gives strength to his people. The Lord blesses his people with peace. The first thing we find in this psalm is that there are heavenly beings worshiping God. And by reading in other parts in the scriptures, we know that these heavenly beings are a multitude of angels worshiping God all the time during the day and while we sleep. All the time, this crowd is worshiping God, raising their voices, declaring the glory of God and confirming the greatness of God. This is why verse 9 says, "And in his temple all cry glory." Amazing, amazing to see this image about these angels, this multitude, and the throne of God. Another thing we find about God is that what God does, no one can do. From verses 3 to 9, it tells us what the power of God's voice can do. Which, for starters, this psalm describes it as a thunder over the sea. And when I was reading this, when I was reading about the voice of God, I remembered that moment when Moses spoke to God on Mount Sinai. Exodus chapter 19 verse 16 says, "On the morning of the third day there was thunder and lightning, with a thick cloud over the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled." Imagine that. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. As the sound of the trumpet as the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and the voice of God answered him. Can you imagine that moment when Moses heard the voice of God as described in this psalm? But you know what? Not only is the voice of God like thunder, this psalm tells us that the voice of the Lord is so powerful that breaks the cedars. Now, the cedars of Lebanon were gigantic trees, which could reach up to a height of 112 feet and a circumference of 29 feet. That's a lot. Not only this, but this psalm describes the voice of God, and it says, "The voice of the Lord makes Sirion leap or jump." Sirion was Mount Hermon, which were basically a group of mountains. This is why in other versions you find Hermon instead of Sirion, but it's the same group of mountains, with the highest peak being 9,000 feet high. And when this psalm says that God makes this group of mountains leap, is an image to describe that his voice makes them shake and tremble. Not even Mount Sirion can contain the voice of God. Although this psalm describes or gives other examples to describe what God does, simply by knowing the size of these mountains or the size of these gigantic trees, I wonder What would the people who heard this Psalm of David think? What would their reaction be? What do you think when you hear that God is so great that He can do all things? I don't know about you, but when I read this psalm, I can't help but be amazed by the greatness of God. I mean, it's immense. It's impressive. What God does, no one can do. Think for a moment how big this sea is. It is huge. I mean, it's immense. The ocean seems to have no end. Its depth, it's unmeasurable. Just thinking about open sea is something amazing. Well, this psalm says that God is above the waters. And this is the most impressive part. That God controls the waters. Imagine the terror that can be experienced in the middle of an earthquake. I have never experienced how it feels like, only the movies. But my point is, this psalm says that the voice of God is so powerful that makes to tremble. Can you see how powerful it is? And I can continue giving examples as this psalm gives in order to remember the greatness of God. But what I'm trying to tell you is this same great, almighty, immense, and majestic God is the same God who gives strength to His people. Verse 11, part A. Hey, this same God with a voice of thunder is the same God who strengthens us. This same God who breaks the cedar of the Lebanon is the same God who lifts us up. This same God who makes Mount Siren leap, jump, or tremble is the same God who empowers us in every situation, in every stage, in every moment of our lives. Now, when I think of the holiness of God, when I think of the holiness that surrounds His throne, as described in this psalm, as this psalm describes it, and I think of that multitude of angels who are worshiping Him in this very moment, precisely in this moment that you and I are here. It seems to me almost impossible to have a chance to be with Him. But listen, with His wholeness and holiness, not only can we get close to Him, not only does He allow us to get closer to Him, but He is close to us. And when He is close to us, the Lord blesses His people with peace. Verse 11, part B. So, if what God does, no one can do, I want to tell you who are watching us right now, there is no one who will strengthen your life as God does. There is no one who lifts you up when you no longer can as God does. And there is no one who blesses you with peace as God does. Now I understand why in every psalm the psalmist ends up worshiping God. Because what God does, no one can do. In the beginning, I mentioned that when I was a child, I read the Psalms because they are short. But now I read them because I can be encouraged. I can be inspired by remembering the greatness, the power, the immensity, the majesty of God. And of course, the result is always to worship God. This is my prayer, and this is my benediction to you, that you may be encouraged, you may be inspired, you may be moved to worship God by remembering the greatness, the power, the immensity, and the majesty of God. And remember what God does, no one can do. God bless you.
Church is wherever you are. Thank you for being part of our church online. We want to remind you that our midweek prayer time will be next Wednesday at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Even when we are not having in-person meetings, your giving matters. So we invite you to give online. Here's how you can do it. Go to our website, agapememorialumc.org. On the menu bar at the top, you will see the Give button. Click here. In this page, click on the Make a Donation button. In the first section, you will need to choose your fund. You will be able to choose if you want to donate to our COVID-19 Relief Fund, or if you want to give your regular offering or tithe, click General Church. Then, Contributions, and the amount you would like to give. After this, you will see a new section. Choose if you want to give by credit card or a bank account. Fill out your card and billing information, and when you're done, just click on Submit, and you finished giving online. So quick and simple. Remember that another way to do this is to mail your contributions to the church. Just put your contribution in an envelope and send it to our address. Thank you for your support.